their AAA city. But the Rockies are doing it, third time that they've been doing it. So for Dick Montfort, Rockies owner, for Jeff Bridich, for these players, Jill, everyone with the Rockies, thank you. Albuquerque, thank them for continuing to come back here and do events in this community. All right, quick survey. Who here was in this room 3 years ago when we had Jeff and we had Charlie Blackman and we had Justin Morneau? All right. How many of you were with us last year at the Albuquerque Convention Center when we had Bud Black, Trevor Story, Adam Ottavino, Mike Dunn? You guys are spoiled. Look at you guys. You guys getting to meet the Rockies manager, GM, ask questions. So most of you know the deal. We're just informal. We're just here to talk some baseball today. And so let me go ahead and introduce these guys. These guys heard this introduction about an hour ago when we were across the street. So bear with me, fellas. Our first guest, born right here in Albuquerque, attended La Cueva High, the University of New Mexico, selected by the A's, 14th round of the 2012 draft. Rockies obtained him in a trade in December of 2014. The hometown kid played for his hometown team last season, put together a spectacular year. 49 innings, 1.85 ERA in the very hitter-friendly Pacific Coast League. 1.8, saved 2, allowed fewer hits than innings pitched. Most of them high-leverage pressure situations late in the game. Teammates selected him the pitcher of the year. You fans voted him the fan favorite. Please welcome Albuquerque's own Austin House. Next guest, drafted by the Rockies, third overall selection in 2013 out of the University of Oklahoma. He pitched in 21 games for the Isotopes in 2015. That was our first year with the Rockies, before getting called up to make his major league debut. Since then, he's blossomed into one of the best young pitchers in baseball. Last year, 20 starts, 10-6, 3.67 ERA. His whip was just under 1.3, struck out 9.1 batters per 9 innings. Please welcome back to Albuquerque, Jon Gray. Our third guest, selected in the 9th round of the 2013 draft by the Rockies out of UCLA, where he helped them win the College World Series. Promoted to the Isotopes late in the 2016 season. One of the biggest highlights, he hit for the cycle. Last year, started the season with us back here in Albuquerque, and once again, he hit for the cycle in the third game of the year when it was Duke's Retro Night. With the Rockies, he played 5 different positions in just 182 at-bats. 7 home runs, 53 RBIs. His OPS was .819. Welcome back to Albuquerque infielder Pat Valaika. Next guest, drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays, 9th overall in 2014 out of East Carolina University. Rockies obtained him in a trade July 28, 2015. He was the centerpiece of the deal that sent Troy Tulowitzki to the Toronto Blue Jays. Pitched most of 2014 with the Isotopes before making his major league debut. Last year, 10 starts for the Topes, 16 starts for the Rockies, 7 relief appearances. Another welcome back to Albuquerque for Jeff Hoffman. And our final guest was a catcher and outfielder while attending Harvard University, worked 4 years in the office of the commissioner for Major League Baseball. Joined the Rockies December 2004 as manager of minor league operations. Promoted to senior vice president and general manager of the Rockies October 8th, 2014. Last year, the team that he put together reached the playoffs for the first time since 2009. This offseason, he's had a really good one. He's focused on restocking that Rockies bullpen. He has signed Wade Davis, Brian Shaw, re-signed Jake McGee, also signed free agent catcher Chris Iannetta. Welcome back to Albuquerque, Jeff Bridich. All right, so Michelle and Dylan have some microphones. If anyone has questions, we'll go ahead and get started right away here.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you could tell us about some of the top prospects.
Me?
Yep.
Present company excluded. Is that it? Well, first of all, before we get into that, I just wanted, to Jon and I can't name everybody, but to Jon and the rest of the Albuquerque crew, thanks for having us back. To all of you, thanks for having us back. Josh is right. We a number of years ago, the commitment to the Rocky Mountain region and wanting to have a greater presence and a greater understanding and kind of foothold in the community, and from our perspective in Denver, try to broaden the Rockies community, whether that be here in Albuquerque, whether it be in Boise. It's our region, it's our place, and we feel like we're excited to be here, and we're excited to come here every year. So thank you for supporting us. We really appreciate all your support. And I don't know what is cooking back there, but the pulled pork smells really good. So, how connected you are to that sandwich are you? Sir, because we're all kind of hungry. We had like coffee on the plane. That's about it. So prospects, who do you want to hear about? What level? Guys like Austin that are close to the majors. Guys that are further away. Guys that are close.
How about you tell us about Austin and maybe someone who is at AA who the fans should think about as a pretty good chance of being here at AAA this year?
Well, Austin, I mean, the obvious one with the guy in the room, right? Austin had a heck of a season and really kind of took that next step. And as Josh said, did it in an environment that's not always, pitcher friendly. An environment that in a lot of ways rivals, these Jon and Jeff could talk about it probably best, but it's comparable to in a lot of ways to what the reality is in Denver. And so, kudos to him. He earned his spring training, Major League spring training invite, and excited for him to do his thing in spring training, and we'll see after that. Guys that are, that kind of on their way up from AA. We've got a couple infielders that are pretty high profile, one in Brendan Rodgers and another in Justin Hampson. Who Hampson played at Lancaster last year, high A. He'll likely headed to AA to start the year this year. We'll see after that. But there are a couple other pitchers. We'll see what happens to them. You never know where they're going to start, right? It's not like we've got things preordained or predetermined at this time of the year. We always try to leave room for advancement and guys getting better and guys earning their way to a certain level. But there's a kid named Ryan Castellani, there's a kid named Peter Lambert, both right-handed pitchers, and then Yency Almonte, is a guy who touched this level last year, along with Zach Gemiola. I mean, those are some of the guys that we've really got our eye on in terms of 2018.
Good morning, and thanks for being here. My question is to each and every one of you that might have a memory of your time spent here in Albuquerque playing for the Isotopes that you took to the majors.
For me, I don't think you can beat in the minor leagues at least playing 4th of July here in Albuquerque. That's probably my favorite memory. The past 2 years I've been here for the 4th of July, so just the support that we see from the community here. What is it?
Over 15,000.
15,000 people. I mean, it's unbelievable, and that's something that I'll always remember. And it's honestly it really helps to get prepared for the next level, because you really don't see that. I mean, when you're in Reno, you're playing in front of 500 people, but playing in front of 15,000 is a big deal, and it helps you kind of get your feet under yourself when you're getting into that major league situation.
So the lesson there is, if Jeff's in the major league level in July, we'll make sure to option him out for the
I'd say my favorite memory is just the day-to-day here. Fans are great. Everyone that works at the ballpark's great. The ballpark's beautiful. It's definitely a jump up from the lower minor leagues. You kind of come here, and it's like, whoa, this is you feel close to the major leagues because it's very similar. And I think I haven't spent too much time here. No 4th of July's, but I always just loved playing in front of the fans. There was always good energy. It was never, not a lot of people here. You guys really come out and support the team, and that's what I cherish most.
I think I'm right there with Pat. One thing I remember is how fun the games were, and how well it was supported. And another favorite thing about being here for me was the city. It was a great place to live for me, and I feel like I grew up a lot here, and it's just helped me make the person I am today. So I'm just thankful for it.
Mine's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I played at this field since I was a little kid, so there's not really one memory that really sticks out to me. But obviously, just being in Albuquerque for me is a blessing. Getting to sleep in my own bed and come to a park and play AAA baseball, that's obviously a dream come true. So, I don't really have one memory. I have about 10 million of them, and they just keep going on and on. So, mine would take 2 hours if I really got down to it. But, obviously being at Isotopes, a pretty big deal for me. I grew up watching the Dukes and the Isotopes, so be able to play for a team that I grew up watching, pretty much a dream come true for me.
Questions?
Jeff, several years ago, the Isotopes were still affiliated with the Dodgers, and the Rockies and the Mariners came in and played a 2-game stint at the end of spring training. What would it take for us to get support from the state or whoever to have that happen again for our fans here in Albuquerque?
I'll answer a question with a question. How much are John and Ken paying you to?
Something I asked the same question last year.
No, it's a good question. So there are, without boring you with details, there are some complexities to that because there are some agreements or arrangements that are made years in advance, right? And then you also, in terms of the end of our spring training and how we, right? And those agreements oftentimes happen with caveats because we don't know, we don't even know what our 2019 schedule looks like right now. Okay, so we have to kind of factor that into play too. Where are we going to start out our, for this, this year's already set, but for 2019, where are we going to start our season? We don't really know. Traditionally, it seems like the last however many years it's been either Milwaukee or starting in Arizona. We usually know that we're going to start our major league season on the road somewhere. Usually it's some sort of dome. So we are in conversations, kind of continual conversations with, with John and the guys. We also have to make sure that we kind of vet out all the opportunities. Are we going to, if we were going to commit to something, are we going to play Rockies versus Rockies? Is there going to be another team involved, like you said, the Mariners? That adds another layer of complexity to it because you can't control what another team wants to do and what their priorities are. So I can assure you that the conversations are ongoing. We're just trying to time it up right.
Michelle, you got someone? He said, what about playing the Isotopes?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant about Rockies versus Rockies. I mean, there's definitely, that's something that we've thought about. And it could end up being that. But, we just, so it's a possibility. Yeah.
John, why don't you tell people about the growing out your hair last year, the charity that you did, and what's the latest with your hair?
Yeah, I guess it's an important enough question. I guess I can answer it. It was just something. I don't know. I just like the primal. I like the primal feel. I like the old. So working for thousands of years, why not? So that's just something I want to do, and it's it was a good thing. I didn't know what else I was going to do with it. I wanted to cut it, but we found
Tell us the name of the charity that you donated the hair to.
Oh, I donated it to Locks of Love, but there are plenty out there as I learned. But it's a really good thing to do, and I was surprised at how many people came up to me and were thanking me about just for the action of doing it. So it's a bigger deal than it seems, and I'm gonna continue to do that for as long as I can.
Hi, I also want to really thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm a lifelong Tigers fan. I'm a transplant to Albuquerque, and so now I have 2 teams, well 3, including the Topes, so thank you. And by the way, the Single A Whitecaps did have an exhibition with the Tigers a few years ago, so it's pretty cool when you do it, so another subtle hint. We saw... My question, sorry about that, and I was not paid or recruited to do that. We saw Tapia and Hoffman move back and forth a lot last year, particularly towards the end of the season. What do you see your starting outfield looking like at the beginning of the season?
I don't know. If healthy, I would assume that Charlie Blackmon will probably be in center field. And after that, it kind of remains to be seen. Obviously, Gerardo Parra had the type of year that we thought he would have. Now that he was healthy, he suffered 2 years ago. He suffered some injuries, kind of akin to or similar to Ian Desmond last year. Some injuries that really kind of derailed the season or made it tougher on him. So Gerardo certainly put himself in an obvious spot to start what corner. Not really sure. And then the rest of it kind of remains to be seen. One of the reasons that we signed Ian Desmond was his athleticism and his versatility and his ability to play really all over the diamond. He's definitely a candidate to play in the outfield. Mike Tauchman and Raimel Tapia and David Dahl, if and when David Dahl can stay healthy. And among others. I mean, there's other guys too. Jordan Patterson, there's a couple guys we put on the roster this year. Noel Cuevas, who had a very good year for the Topes last year. I think there's going to be some healthy competition, which is usually a good thing. And at the very least, we have quality depth in our outfield that we feel really good about. And so if and when injuries happen, which they inevitably do, we feel like, one or multiple guys will be able to step up. Some of that's what spring training is for, so we'll see.
I'm collecting a lot of stuff underneath my stool here, and if you ask a really good question, then maybe you'll get something. But it has to not just be a good question. It can't just be a planted question by Ken Young and John Traub. It has to be a really good question. So who's got a really good question for us?
Yeah, hi. Like everybody else here, I'm really excited that you guys keep coming here every year. I've been with the Topes since they've started, and it's always nice to see the big league clubs supporting us in this manner. The question I had for you guys is, I see in the last couple weeks or so, the Giants have really made some big splashes in free agency and trades. And I wonder if you might be able to talk a little bit about some of the losses and some of the gains you're looking forward to having in your lineup starting this year.
That sounds like a question for you, Jeff.
So first off, you can't control what other teams are going to do, right? It's very obvious that the Giants felt like they had to go out and either be on the lookout free agent-wise for bats, or as it turns out, try to trade for some offensive impact, and that's what they've done. And that is what it is. I mean, you can't control what they're going to do. We really control what we can do. And we don't even control all of that, because whether it's trying to make trades or signing people, signing guys in free agency, you really only control about half of that process, if that, as a team. We feel with what happened last year, I feel really good about where we're at. We're going to kind of keep our ear to the ground in terms of in terms of the free agent market. But I think there's some growth, whether it's growth health-wise. As I mentioned before, Ian Desmond, I think, is primed to have the type of bounce back year that Gerardo Parra had from injury. I think that honestly, I feel like some of the struggles that Trevor Story had this past year were great opportunities for learning for him. The league started to adjust to Trevor, and it took a while for Trev to adjust back. and find his groove. But as the season wore on, he got a little bit better and a little bit better. So I think there's some upside there. And then we expect certain guys that have really established themselves as premier type offensive players at their position. The expectation is that they continue to do that. Nolan, DJ, Charlie. I think the addition of Chris Iannetta behind the plate is gonna be beneficial both from an offensive and defensive perspective. So, and I'm always going to miss some guys when you start talking about individual players. But I think there's impact there and there's growth potential in a number of our players. Pat included, and we'll see potentially an increased role for Pat. His second year in the big leagues here. And as just like we talked about, versatile, athletic, can play all around the diamond, just like Ian. I mean, Pat's got the same sort of element and abilities there as well. So that's really part of the plan is in a National League organization that often goes with 13 pitchers and 12 position players on a 25-man roster. We need athletes. We need guys that can play all over the diamond, and so we're excited to have some of those guys on our team.
What do you think? Was that a good question? Yeah? How about an Adam Ottavino autographed baseball as a reward for that good question? Who else has a question? Now we got a lot more hands up suddenly. That worked.
Well, I have two, one for Jeff and then one for the pitchers. Where do you see Ryan McMahon coming into spring training, and is he going to float, or does have a pretty good shot at maybe first base this year? And then for the pitchers, I would love to hear the mental approach between pitching at altitude and pitching at sea level. Do you rely more on fastballs or off speed, because obviously with thin air and all that stuff. So I'd just like to hear your mental approach and how you can be successful flip-flopping back and forth.
All right, so that was two good questions, but he's only going to get one baseball. But it will be a Gerardo Parra autographed baseball.
So I'll get out of the way here quickly. The Ryan McMahon, he's going to come in and compete, right? He's still, he's a young player you guys saw it, with a lot of upside, and he's going to come in and compete for a job. Again, that's what spring training is for. So we expect him to come in and be ready, and we'll see where he plays. He's played all around the infield other than shortstop, so we'll see how that goes.
I got it. Okay, I like to start with it takes a different mindset to pitch an elevation or pitch at cores. I think that's what worked for me. I had an aggressive attack mindset that started happening, and that's when I started beating people with my fastballs, learning what to do with my slider, and I just kind of picked up a rein with it from there. But there are differences. Your ball is going to do different things on away than home, and vice versa. But the more confident you feel out there, and the more aggressive you feel, I think you're the best off you are. Because almost every home run I've given up, I've almost seen it happen before, or I have not felt right throwing that pitch. So I just try to get into a really good thought process before the pitch is thrown, and it works out most of the time.
Jeff?
Yeah, for me, no, actually probably for most people, most pitchers in our organization, you know what you're getting into now, and I think over the past few years, and I'm not really new anymore to the organization, but what I've observed is we as a group we're not using it as an excuse anymore. We're embracing it, and that's kind of it's becoming a part of our identity. And for us, we do it enough now that we go into it and we trust what it's going to do. We know that our stuff isn't going to move as much at home. We know it's going to move more, back to normal on the road. So I think us we've embraced it, and we're just going out there and knowing that it's not gonna it's gonna do what it's gonna do, and we know that, and that's the other team's dealing with it too. So we just go out and execute as many pitches as we can, and if we execute more pitches than the other team, we're gonna come out on top.
For me, I
I mean, I grew up here, so elevation's always been part of, the game. So I never really thought about it. So just growing up in elevation and pitching in the Mountain West, and then now obviously pitching in Albuquerque. I've always worried about ground balls. I've been more of a ground ball pitcher than a strikeout pitcher because I'm trying to keep the ball in the infield. Anytime that ball got over my head, usually bad things happen. So, so I've never really thought any different about high elevation compared to sea level because I never pitched at sea level. Basically, I was always in high elevation. So there was never any really mental change. Like I said, to just keep the ball in the infield, and usually good things will happen. But anytime the ball got in the air, something was going to happen. So that's why I always threw sinkers to try to keep the ball on the ground. So that was my game plan. I don't know if it's worked, but there was no difference in mental approach for me compared to maybe some other guys. I don't know.
Let me jump in with a quick follow-up question. We had a lefty here 2 years ago named Jason Gurka, about my size, unbelievable curveball. And I remember he said that he started it lower. For you guys, Jeff, especially since you have a really good curveball, do you start it differently, sea level versus elevation?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge is once you do learn to trust what the pitch is going to do at sea level as opposed to at a higher elevation, it just becomes as pitchers we talk about our tunnels and our starting points and where we're trying to start our pitches, and that's really the only thing that changes for us when we're going back and forth.
Go ahead.
How many innings does it take you usually to adjust to sea level versus altitude? Is it a matter of games or a matter of innings?
Hopefully it's not even an inning. If it's any more than an inning, you're probably not going to last very long in that start. I know from experience. But no, as a major league pitcher, you're expected to be able to make the adjustment, from pitch to pitch. So, the best ones in the game are ones that do that, and guys that can't make the adjustment get hit around a little bit. So,
So less than an inning.
Yeah, hopefully about less than a batter.
Oh, okay.
Member of our grounds crew has a question.
Yeah, it's where I was going to go to like 8 years ago for this season, but I know Jon said about being healthy, because that's when I learned about anatomy. So, why have you guys been healthy?
Why haven't guys been healthy?
Yeah.
Chad Bettis, autograph baseball.
So why haven't guys been healthy? It's probably a little different story for each guy. Everybody's, it's to kind of piggyback on some of the altitude stuff. Each one of these guys, obviously, a little bit different body type. There might be some similarities, and there may be similarities in how their bodies work athletically on the diamond. But each guy has a different body that he walks around in, and each body's built differently for the sport, and the sport is very demanding because of how many games we play in such a short period of time relative to the number of games. And then on top of that, you add in altitude, and each guy probably has a different altitude story here about whether it was the first time or the first season or whatever that playing or living or sleeping or hydrating or eating or whatever it is, the athletes, the guys experience these things differently. And so each guy kind of has to figure out what works best for him in terms of maintaining health, in terms of recovering, whether it's just recovering from playing or recovering from injury. And there are some habits that have to be formed for every single guy. It really doesn't matter who you are. They might be a little bit different for each guy, but these habits have to be formed. And they can change it too. I mean, as guys age in their career, the bodies start to get less resilient, and they might have to change. Todd Helton's a perfect example of that. What Todd was doing early in his career, coming up from AAA in Denver, was different than what he was doing to maintain his body as a 35, 36-year-old. So there's no one equation or one perfect thing. It's really, finding the right kind of prescription for. I mean, these guys can talk about it, better than I can, but that was my experience with it.
Question.
As fans in the stands, what can we do to help you feel good about yourselves in the game? Well, other than being there.
Being loud always helps. You never want to make an error and hear crickets, I don't expect you to cheer for that, but no, fans are great. It gives you energy. When you come up to the plate and you hear the music and the fans, and it puts you in this mindset of you're going to go do something, and I think just having energy and being loud, I would say.
Dylan, you had a question?
Baseball has a lot of superstitious things that go on, and you're going to have a lot of fun at baseball. Tell me some of your individual routines or whatever you do for a game, just along the baseball lines.
John, game day, what do you do on game day? Do you eat the same food every day on the day that you start?
No, I'm not superstitious. I'm not. There's things I do the
stop
same.
talking. Jeff, are you superstitious?
I'm pretty easy.
All right, you're boring. Pat, are you superstitious?
I mean, if I do something good, I'm going to do the same thing I did the previous day. So.
How come no one ever touches the line? Everyone jumps over the line. What would happen if you touched the chalk line up the base pass? What would happen?
Bad karma. Don't touch it.
How much green chili do you eat before a start?
I was gonna say pozole. I eat more pozole than anything, and I eat it year round. It's more of like a winter meal, but I eat it like 24/7, 365. So if something's not going right, and on the field or something like that, I just go to Taco Cabana. I get a bowl of pozole. I don't know if that works or if it doesn't, but it makes me feel good. So it's that feel good meal. That's all I do.
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I would just like to know, what is your favorite team you like to play against, or your hardest team?
I actually haven't played against them yet, but I grew up a diehard Red Sox fan, so I'm kind of waiting on that one. And then the Blue Jays, obviously, drafted by the Blue Jays and traded from the Blue Jays. Looking forward to that one as well.
I don't like playing against the Dodgers. I want to beat those guys especially. So there's the team.
So how good did that sweep feel in September?
That was great. Any game, I just don't like them.
Well, I remember it was a great time, and it was my favorite time of the year. It was it was awesome. Those are my favorite games too, the LA games. It's just packed, and it's rivalry, and it's a lot of fun. There's always something going on, and it's just hard-nosed baseball. We get after it, so it's a lot of fun.
How about right here?
Thanks for coming, guys. I represent a Little League, and I was looking more for what advice would you give to young players as they're trying to follow their dreams, become professionals, and then what would you tell them to look out for? Is there any one thing that they should not do?
Well, we have the Albuquerque kid answer that one.
I mean, I teach a lot of kids in the off season, just over at the baseball academy and stuff like that. So the one thing I always tell them is just have fun. If you're not having fun anymore, then why do it? And you play as many sports as you can. That's the other thing. Play every sport in the world. Don't get one-dimensional. Don't just play baseball. Play tetherball or go play basketball. Go run, swim, bike, whatever you want. I mean, you got to be multi-sport athlete. That's how you become the best rounded athlete. But to go with your first question is just have fun. If they're not having fun anymore, then why be out there? You know what I mean? And we're a little bit different, but for a kid, it's all about having fun. I never played Little League I was out there because it was fun to me, and I just kept playing because it's fun. So if they're not having fun anymore, then don't show up, I guess. I don't know how else to put it that way, but that's what I tell my kids at the academy. If if you're not going to come in and have fun doing the lesson, then don't show up. It's as simple as that. I want you having fun. So if I'm doing something that it's not fun for you, then let's change it up where we can have more fun. That's what it's all about when you're a kid, is playing baseball for fun. We didn't do it to have a job, like we do now. It's all about having fun as a kid.
It's getting tougher and tougher to play multiple sports, like Austin was talking about, right? It's not just a choice that the kid's making, it's actually choices that adults are making across this country on behalf of kids, whether it's pre-high school, whether it's in high school. So many sports teams are going, we were just at a school that doesn't have, it's a sports-minded school, but it doesn't have sports. It's all the kids in it. It's a charter school. It's all the kids are doing sports outside of the school. And so as sports move away from the schools and into more tunnel visioned or siloed avenues, it kind of forces kids. And it's not just, it used to just be hockey, right? You had to play hockey, or it used to be just soccer, back when, 20 years ago. But now it's not. It's every sport almost. And I think Austin's point was the biggest one, is that if there are kids that really want to be athletes for as long as they can in their lives, the playing soccer develops your foot skills and develop how you run and how fast you can possibly be. Playing basketball develops different types of athleticism and different muscles than playing baseball. And all those things add up over time. It's not, you can't necessarily see it right away when a kid is 9 years old or a kid is 10 years old or 11, but over time it really makes a difference. So I think we're losing it in this country, and I think it's a big problem.
We got about 5 minutes left, and then we're going to do autographs in the clubhouse. I have 3 bobbleheads left. Let's see if we can quickly get 3 more questions for the last 3 bobbleheads, starting over here.
Thank you for coming, and I really want to thank you for the best season, one of the best seasons I saw last year. It was a nail biter all the way down to the very end, and the TV never was off. I want to thank you so much for all the MVP players that you had, Arnado and Blackman. I mean, you guys had an awesome season. I hope that this season continues, and I wish you the best of luck. With that said, what does your pre-season workout consist of as you head to Arizona?
So we actually have a program in place organizationally that most guys do. It's a four workouts a week. It's 2 upper body and 2 lower bodies. You can do it however you want. You can do it as 2 total bodies a week, or you can do 4 individual workouts a week. But we're at it. There's a group of about 30 guys in Arizona right now, and they've been there, basically through the whole off season. And really, we have a good group that likes to train hard, and I think it's been showing, obviously, with the results that we've had. But we're in there usually 4 or 5 days a week. We take our weekends for our recovery, and right now it's starting to ramp up with more baseball activity because obviously the season's coming up. So now we try to kind of find the middle ground where we tone back the weights a little bit so we can get our arms and our bodies in shape for the season.
In the back, Dylan.
Yes, talking about youth sports, with a lot of the traveling teams, are you finding that they're coming in better prepared, or actually some bad habits? And on top of that, when they do get into the professional leagues, are a lot of them sustaining injuries because they've played so much or less?
Jeff, why don't you start that one?
It depends on what you're talking about. And this will be fairly candid. So I think skill-wise, I think a lot of the on-the-field skills are advanced, or maybe more advanced than they were, more advanced at a younger age than they were decades and decades ago. Okay, and when you have that one sport approach, you have a lot of time over the course of a full year to But are there overuse injuries, like you said? Absolutely there are. There are, sometimes it's just going to happen. I mean, Tyler Chatwood, I think, is a good example of that. He had Tommy John, at the right at the end of his high school career, and then he had Tommy John, 2 years ago. So sometimes it's just going to happen based on how a player is built. But yes, I do think that there are overuse injuries. The one thing about athletes right now that I think, and I'll speak for myself here. I'm not speaking for any other organization or necessarily the rest of the Rockies organization. But the more and more that the traveling teams go on and all these perfect game and everything that all these tournaments that we do to kind of, and we do it, I'm not divorcing us at all. I mean, we perpetuate these things. But more and more they move players away from the team concept. And more we see players coming in with me first issues, and families coming into pro ball with me first issues. And so in a team sport that obviously has individual aspects to it, that whole element of playing with your buddies growing up and going finding games at the local park and playing for your high school and playing for your buddies that you grew up with in your high school, those things are kind of going by the wayside. And it's not all bad necessarily, but that is one of the things that we have to look for. Does this player understand what a team concept is and how he's going to fit into that team concept? That's becoming more and more of a challenge.
All right, it's a New Mexico tradition, and all of you guys played here, and Jeff, you've been here enough. Red, green, Christmas.
Christmas.
Green.
Pat wasn't here very long. He was here the least. He was here for a month 2 years ago and about a week last year.
Yeah, green.
Green. No, there is no right answer. There is no right or wrong answer when it comes to this. But he said green. I prefer green, but it's Christmas for me. I red, and depends on who's making it. If my mom's making it, it's red.
What if your dad's making it?
It's green, I guess. I can't say anything because then I won't get fed. So.
Who enjoyed the green chili cheeseburger night? Yeah, so that's going to come back. We're going to do that again. We have another special promotion that we're going to do this year. Can't tell you just yet. John Traub will fire me if I say what it is. We're going to be announcing it within the next, month or two, John? But I can tell you that it'll be muy caliente. It's about the most that I think I'm allowed to say. I think you're really going to like it. Merchandise is going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. If you like the green chili cheeseburger night, we're doing it again, and we got something else special ready for you. All right, everyone, it's time to do so. Wait, John?
So just real quick, thank you everybody for coming. We're going to have the players come through here first, get them set up in the clubhouse, and then anybody who wants autographs, we've got some treats for you in there as well. So then you can certainly line up in the hallway. But let's let the players go first. Josh, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, everyone. How about a round of applause? Colorado Rockies are back here, third time. Guys, thank you very much. Sign some autographs.